All right, let's talk about something that can sound, well, pretty intimidating: data governance. We're going to break down what it is, why it's so important for data privacy, and get this, how it can actually make your life a whole lot easier. Okay, be honest. Have you ever felt totally lost in your own data? Like you're staring at a database and you're thinking, where did this even come from? What am I allowed to do with it? It's that classic feeling, right? Like you're stuck in a maze with no map. And that's exactly where data governance comes into play. Think of it this way. If the whole world of data privacy is this giant, complex landscape, then data governance is your map. Seriously. It's not about adding more red tape. It's the tool that helps you turn all that chaos into clarity so you can actually find your way around safely. Okay, so let's get into it. What is this map, really? What does it actually mean when we talk about governing data? At its core, data governance is really just the system for managing the data you collect. I mean, think about it. When someone gives you their data, they're trusting you with it, right? Governance is the framework that helps you handle that responsibility, making smart, ethical decisions about whose data you have, how you got it, and what you're doing with it. So to really bring this to life, let's build out that map idea. Imagine your data landscape is an island. And right there in the middle, you've got this tall, secure tower. That tower, that's where you keep your most valuable treasure, your sensitive data. That's the thing we're trying to protect. Now, every good tower needs protection, so around it, we've got a big protective moat. This moat is all your regulations and compliance rules. You know, things like GDPR or maybe just your own internal company policies. They're that essential barrier that keeps the data safe and sound. Okay, so you've got this protected tower, but how do you get in and out to actually use the data? Well, that's where privacy technologies come in. Picture them as these secure control drawbridges crossing the moat. They're what let you and your team get the insights you need from the data without, just leaving the front door wide open. And here's the cool part. You're probably already doing a lot of the stuff, even if you don't call it by these fancy names. I mean, have you ever asked, hey, where did this data come from? Boom, that's data lineage. Ever worried about what laws apply to a data set? You're dealing with policies and controls. See, you're already playing the game. This is just giving you the official language for it. All right, let's zoom in on that tower for a minute. What is this sensitive data we're protecting so carefully? You might be surprised. It's a lot more than just the obvious stuff. So, first up, we have the stuff everyone thinks of, PII, or Personally Identifiable Information. This is the data that points directly to a specific person. Their full name, email, social security number, credit card, you name it. Even an IP address often counts. This is the heavy hitter, the stuff that's regulated for a very good reason. But that's not the whole story. We've got to think bigger. There's also this huge category of what we can call person-related data. This is stuff that, on its own, might not seem so unique. We're talking about location history, a person's interests, their online clicks, who they're connected to, even their daily commute. So here's the big difference, right? PII can identify someone all by itself, but this other person-related data, well, that's where it gets powerful. It becomes identifying when you start connecting the dots. A single GPS coordinate is kind of meaningless, but a whole history of them? Well, now you know where someone lives, where they work, and who their friends are. It's all about the combination. And this whole idea of connecting the dots, that's a process called inference. And believe me, this is where things get really, really interesting. The power of inference is just staggering. It can uncover things you'd never expect. And this isn't just some academic theory either. There was this fascinating study where researchers showed that just by looking at a series of Facebook likes, they could figure out things like a person's gender, their political beliefs, even their sexual orientation, stuff the person never explicitly stated on their profile. Each individual like is just a tiny breadcrumb, but you put enough of them together, and suddenly you have a very detailed map of who someone is. So, what does this all mean? It leads to a pretty mind-blowing conclusion. If you have enough data points, pretty much any data generated by a person can become identifiable. When you have it in large enough quantities, you can connect the dots and pinpoint a single individual, or at the very least, a very, very small group. Okay, so we've got our map. We understand what we need to protect in that central tower. Now for the big question, how do you actually start using this map? How do we turn all this knowledge into action? It really comes down to a simple, three-step approach to get you started. First things first, find out what sensitive data you already have. Go on a discovery mission, even in those messy, unstructured files. Step 2 is to get proactive. Start tracking and labeling sensitive data the moment it comes into your system. And finally, and this one is absolutely huge, you've got to build a culture of documentation. Make it a team sport where everyone helps tell the story of the data. Because in the end, data governance isn't really about the tech or the compliance checklists. It's about remembering that behind every single data point, there's a human being. Your data is telling their stories. So the question you have to ask yourself is, do you actually know what those stories are saying?